Sucks. Who did I send this to?
Oh. Welcome to RPG Research. My name is Daniel Ivey, and this is
John Welker, Vice President of RPG Research and the coolest fez in town. All right, the coolest one within a 5-foot radius of me.
Yes. Until I start wearing fezes, but I don't want to impede on your trademark.
You won't get a cooler fez than mine. I've been told I'm getting a purple one.
And you've seen when I start getting into crafting. Anyway. So how are you doing today?
Well, today we're going to talk about things. That's
Yes,
what we generally do. I do want to, in our first segment, which is about 45 minutes, I want to go over, let's get political, but not partisan.
Okay.
I'll make it really simple for everybody. Vote. That's it. Now, if you're worried that you haven't registered yet, that's fine. Go to usa.gov/confirm-voter-registration so that you can check your voter registration. Remember that some states require you to do it at least 30 days in advance. Others require you to do it as you are walking in the voter polls.
Yes.
But take care of that. And I do know that I forgot to mention we are RPGresearch.com,
Yes.
501c3 nonprofit organization.
Yep.
That means we have no money.
Well, we don't get paid.
We don't get paid. Nobody gets paid from the president on down. Everything we get in donations at rpgresearch.com/donate goes directly to programming and electricity and mortgage. But nothing goes to us. No, it's not a mortgage. It's a...
We're renting.
We're renting.
Yeah, we're renting.
And we're renting only until the end of this year. Then we have to give our 90-day notice, and then we will be out in May.
Yeah.
But anything you can donate to us, if you want to send us $100,000 real quick, and we might keep the place. Yeah, but
No pressure.
no pressure at all.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you don't have it, don't send it. I hate you to go to jail or debtor's prison.
Yeah.
Of course, we have to send you back in time for that to happen, but you know, we deal with role-playing games. And
Yeah.
time travel is a thing that happens.
It is. It is.
All right.
So, outside of that, I believe you mentioned there's a bunch of Kickstarters that you've been keeping an eye on.
Well, yeah, and that actually lies right into the concept of donating, because Hawk right now is too busy trying to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
I'm too busy trying to keep us a reason to have a door open. And I don't have enough money to buy into all of these Kickstarters, no matter how wonderful they would be as an addition to us.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in donating, you can donate in our name or in your own name and then mail it back over to us, whatever you want to do. I don't care. Or you can just buy stuff for yourself in these Kickstarters because they are worthy of your attention, regardless of whether you give it to us. First thing up is Beatles and Grimm's. BeatlesandGrims.com. They have the new Dungeons and Dragons, not Kickstarter. It's a purchase. Beatles and Grimm's is a luxury D&D site.
They absolutely are.
Also Pathfinder and Magic the Gathering and some of their own board games, but it is completely luxury. So you can buy a digital copy of the Dungeon Master's Guide. You can buy a standard cover copy online or through D&D Beyond, or you can order it and everything. You can even pick it up at your friendly local gaming store. But another option at your friendly local gaming store is the alternate cover, which tend to be prettier.
Which I got.
I got to.
Yes.
I will get all of the pretty covers. But if you want the best of the best, you get the Beatles and Grimm's Dungeon Master's Guide Premium Map Collection. Now, this will not give you a copy of the book.
Okay.
The box opens book-style magnetic closing panel, and for once, one of the products doesn't have the book in it, but what it does have is 30 battle maps.
Nice.
Like almost 15. I didn't count the numbers, but half of them are dungeon maps, half of them are above ground maps, and they are meant to be used for reused for interactions, and they're straight from the Dungeon Master's Guide. You can also pick up because Greyhawk setting is going to be highlighted in there.
Yep.
There will be 2 canvas area maps, one of the city of Greyhawk, and we're talking poster size, 21 by 30 inches on durable canvas, and there will be Eastern Auric, which is the main continent of Greyhawk. Unfortunately for me, I play in the southern continent of...
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm playing right now in the Isle of Dread. But they also have a DM screen, which is going to be unique. It's not the same DM screen you can buy at your store. It is a Greyhawk specific GM screen.
Ooh. Okay.
The other GM screen that you can get from your local store or online is the
D&D.
standard, but
Yeah.
for 2024 rules. They've been talking about things like, 1, they made the fonts bigger. 2, they made the most important things on the left panel and the right panel. That way your laptop doesn't block the important things.
Yeah.
And the other stuff is in the middle, so you have to flip down your laptop.
Yeah.
to
Now,
take a
mind
look
you,
at it.
we don't necessarily say that you have to have a laptop while running the game. We actually find that the more screens that you have, the less immersion you get. But we live in modern days. People tend to use their laptops, especially the GMs, to help with the games.
Yeah. Now, I have played games where I said nobody's allowed to have an electronic device but me. And unfortunately, everybody's doing their character sheets on their phones and thumbing through the rules on their phones. And I just can't seem to get 100% away from that.
Yeah.
But for $160, I can get all those super special maps that, unless somebody donates it to us, we probably aren't going to get anytime soon.
Right.
The next one up for bid is Adventures in Teaching and Learning with TTRPGs. Now, as everybody knows, we prefer only one T because tabletop is one word.
We are pushing up Sisyphus's boulder on that one, though.
Yeah, we know that nobody's going to listen to us.
Yeah.
So they've gotten 30,000 of the $5,900 gold for the Adventures in Teaching and Learning, and this is a resource for people who want to use role-playing games the way we do, to teach. And of course, I want in on this. I have not made my bid yet. I have 23 days left to go. They have a lot of nice Kickstarters in there with wonderful stretch goals. At 40,000 though, it will get the audio version of the book. And at 35, we'll get the second pack of maps. There's cards, there's all kinds of things. There's learning opportunities you pay extra for and things like that. I am probably going to get the least expensive hardcover book version as I can. But I would really like to go all in on this and get all the bells and whistles and stuff like that. I will actually be talking to the people in this Kickstarter because I'm on their Discord.
Okay, nice.
And I am hoping that... I've already pledged. I forgot. I pledged $64 on this one. But that is the lowest I can do with that and get a book. But I'm hoping to talk to either the people there or you wonderful people out there to increase our usability of this stuff, because this isn't just a game for the sake of playing. This is using role-playing games, multiple different role-playing games, as teaching tools, which is right there in our Ballywick. It is our mission to use role-playing games for therapy and education. And I'm probably... I don't know if I'm the first or the second person as far as experts in using role-playing games for things, because I don't have an actual teaching certificate.
Yeah.
We do have a teacher in our group. We've got actually a couple of teachers. We have a professor who's in our groups, but one is teaching rec therapy and the other one's teaching English. I don't remember what he's teaching.
I got the impression that he was in elementary school, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, middle school
Yeah.
English. Anyways, we do teach, and the more we can get out of this stuff, we know. Therapy and teaching can go hand in hand. I've had clients when that was exactly what we were there for, was to do both teaching and therapy, with an emphasis, I think, on therapy and teaching as things presented, as opportunities presented itself.
Yeah.
Which I kept throwing 1,000 hooks out for opportunities to learn. The next thing out there would be Hawk and Hawk's wife favorite RPG. It's
Discworld?
Discworld.
I called it. Called it. They absolutely love Discworld. I feel bad that I have not read any of it yet, but I've heard nothing but good stuff about it.
Oh, it's wonderful. So the original Discworld was set for GURPS.
Mm-hmm.
And Terry Pratchett's Discworld RPG Adventures in Ankh Morpork is a 2 die 20 system, I believe. Let me double check. And it is European. And it is a great system. I have not backed this at all. This is, again, something I hope Hawk hears me talking about. And he can pay the $457 Blackboard Monitor Signed Edition, or just the $392, 300 pounds. Blackboard Edition gives you all the goodies. But we may have to settle with just the book. There's a lot of Kickstarter stuff, and unfortunately, to get most of the Kickstarter materials, you have to get higher levels, like Commander at least.
Mm-hmm.
Blackboard Monitor gets you everything, but Duke of Ankh gets you almost everything. But Duke of Ankh gives you the same thing Commander gets you. That's as far as the add-ons / stretch goals.
And I feel like there's a whole bunch of references in there that I am not catching.
Probably not. I mean, I can understand why you wouldn't understand the different level names.
Right.
Or why the dice are the specific color they are.
Right.
But
it's I'll say this much. I'm familiar enough with Terry Pratchett to know that there are layers upon layers of what he is doing. I read Good Omens. I absolutely loved Good Omens.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't really watched the TV series, but I've heard nothing but good things about the TV series.
Yeah.
Argentine Empire. Hi, Barbase.
Hi, Barbase. Yeah, that's $450, but that's for an autograph.
They're getting
$457 gets you an autograph. If you you want to skip the autograph, you can just get it for $392. So that autograph is a little expensive.
How are they getting Terry Pratchett's autograph?
Paul Kidby.
Oh, okay.
The person who wrote this version.
I thought for maybe 450 they were doing a seance.
Yeah, we're not doing necromancy. It's going to be even more expensive for necromancy. All right. Next.
Mm-hmm.
Myologist Primer by Double Proficiency. That's Mycologist Primer. I have the first book in the series of the Natural World role-playing supplements. Mm-hmm. The first one is Herbology.
Yeah.
The second one is Geology.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is Mycology, which is the study of mushrooms.
Yep.
I physically have the Herbology. I'm waiting for my Geology to come in the mail. Mm-hmm. I have not done Mycology because I've already spent big bucks on other things, such as the education one and another one that I'll mention when I get to it. But I'm used to on this one getting the all in, which all in is $75. The at the most $80 if I miss the early bird.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is, again, that's a lot of money. I really want to do that, but we just had a anniversary. I got two. My wife's and my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's and my aunt's birthday. Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And I need to bring my savings back up.
Yeah.
But why in the world would you want these handbooks? Because not only do they give you all the real world details of the geology, the herbology, the mycology,
Yeah.
but they give you the magic, the real, quote unquote, real world magic applications of these items, what they have historically and in mythology have been used for.
So what would you say is this would be a good cross reference between the real world and, say, for example, foraging, or other people who are trying to do foraging in Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, or the cooking one. Dungeon cooks or cooks in the dungeon, whatever that's called. Then these ology books are great because they are system agnostic.
Okay.
They will give you everything you need to know about these things, how to identify them, where they grow, how they're used, whether or not they're safe to eat or not, whether or not they're dangerous in of themselves. But you just port it into any role-playing game that has plants, minerals, or mushrooms. And I'm hoping for more stuff. Maybe one about trees. I would love to see one about weather.
Yeah.
Because, I just realized the herbology doesn't have trees.
So maybe an arborist one?
Yeah, herbology. I don't know what other ones. Hey,
Oh, geez.
give us your suggestions of other ologies of real world things that can be brought into your world thing. So don't ask me for dragonology.
So the idea of an arborologist, one of just is making me think of, like, what happens if I have a Gimby treant?
Right.
Yeah.
Listing off there, because believe it or not, there are trees that are very useful in your everyday life, and there are trees that getting near them is the end of your life.
Yeah. Like the Gimby is the whole idea of the Gimby plant is if you can see it, you're going to be in pain.
The Geologist Handbook is the second one that they've already come out with, and will be available in the things coming up soon. I've already ordered the Geologist Handbook. So there's a lot, and it teaches you how to forage, basically pulling forage items by. I have done that. I have run games where the entire purpose was you're starting off with a loincloth. You're escaping whatever situation you were in. And as they were playing, they had to play Minecraft in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
You had to come up with your reasons on how to do it. You had to describe how you were making your bow and arrow. You had to do your fishing, and you built yourself up, which did include
what type of products you can get from them.
right.
Yeah.
There are other books that like that. They just list products that you can get from, but they don't go into the details of how to. There's one that does it for all of the monsters that are in every D&D module. You buy. So if you're doing name a Dungeons and Dragons module,
Sunless Citadel.
okay, you're doing Sunless Citadel. you can find a reference for Sunless Citadel. Actually, it'll be for the entire book that it's in. Yawning Portal, or it is Yawning Portal, I think.
I don't think Sunless Citadel is in Yawning Portal.
Which one is it in?
That's an old 3rd edition one.
There is a 5th edition Sunless Citadel.
There is?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to double check.
And it is one of those anthology ones.
Okay.
So you'd have to buy the entire anthology of, and it would have all the monsters listed in that anthology, and what you can get out of them, and how long it would take to harvest them, and that kind of stuff.
Okay, looks like we're having some Twitch issues. Twitch is being twitchy.
As usual.
Yeah.
Hopefully Carolyn's watching and can tell us whether or not things are going well on her end.
Yeah.
They must be rebooting servers. Twitch can do that to you.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to talk about a Kickstarter that has not launched yet.
Okay.
And this is called Smurfs Role-Playing Game.
Smurfs?
The Smurfs Role-Playing Game.
Okay, is this from Hasbro?
No, actually. No? It's from Maestro Media. And it is coming to Kickstarter. I'm not 100% sure when.
Okay.
But it is got all kinds of things. And you need to sign up to be notified of it. And if you back the campaign in the first 24 hours, you will get a free copy of Smurfs Hidden Village board game added to your pledge, which is worth about $40.
Okay.
So how much are all the little levels going to cost? Can't tell. It's not open unless you happen to have received our second link, which because I had signed up for the because I had signed up to be notified, I got a sneak peek into it. We got the link there. I recommend everybody sign up so you can legitimately look at this sneak peek, but I'm sure they won't get too mad if I shared it. If they do, I'm sorry. But so our levels go from Clockwork Smurf, which is all digital, for $30. When I say $30, subtract $1 and you get the actual price. Everything's in nines, $29.
Right.
So Baby Smurfs starter box and digital, which is $59 or $60, however you want to think about it. That is the lowest physical product you can get, but we can get up to Papa Smurf's collector tome for $249.
And Barbius is letting us know about some lore when it comes to Smurfs, which I was a bit aware of, that they were basically how should I put it? Kids would get lost in the woods and die, and then mushrooms would grow under them, and those are the Smurfs.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know where they got that idea, because I always thought they were just blue gnomes.
See, and I've come across...
Where did he get the legend that they're actually the ghost of kids who are lost in the woods? Though that is not non-fairy tale friendly. I mean, that fits in fairy tales. Right,
and that is something that I've come across as well, but I've also come across that Smurf, and this is what I'm familiar with from when I failed my 4 years of German. my teacher would not, wouldn't give me the F that I deserved, but Smurfs in German is kobold. Yeah?
I thought kobold was just a German word.
For Smurf.
For Smurf?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the reference for this?
Color blue. Cobalt blue. Cobalt.
So it's called Smurf Blue?
No, the Smurfs were called, kobolds in German.
But got changed to Smurf in English.
Right.
Oh. And so your reference is changing the name from kobold to Smurf, and that's it?
Something like that, yeah. Where basically the concept of Smurfs were considered kobolds.
Okay, so how did we get a village of mushroom-dwelling critters out of a group of miners? Kobolds are mining creatures, also sometimes referred to as Tommyknockers.
So one of the things I've come across is that when it comes to
Yes,
gnomes,
you too can argue about mythology.
gnomes and gnomes and leprechauns and many of the tiny folk, including goblins, that yeah, in D&D we have a whole bunch of different characters, characteristics for them, but they are all just translations of the same thing.
See, I'm going to disagree with that.
I mean, mind you, I don't have any confirmation.
Yeah.
It's just something I've been coming across.
Because I know it's regional. Gnomes are in Norway and Nordic lands, while leprechauns and fae are further south in Great Britain and things like that. The Celtic mythologies go all the way into Europe, especially France. Most expensive set. It's $359. According to Google Translate, Smurf translates as schlumpf, which I believe more than Smurf translates into kobold. I would like somebody to send me a link to Dark Smurf history. And I'm going to have email that to me, please, Mr. Holmes. That way I can actually read that, because I'd like to see where their actual references are for this story thing. It is not outside of the realm of your standard fairy tale. That fairies are the spirits of people who died, and the idea that children who died and had mushrooms grow over them came back as Smurfs is not 100% beyond the pale.
Right.
But I never heard it.
Because I know that Grimm from the Grimm's fairy tales doesn't necessarily mean grim, but the Grimm fairy tales really were grim.
Well, the word grim as we know it comes from the fact that the Brothers Grimms had such grim fairy tales.
So which one came first? The brothers.
The brothers came first. What their name meant before that,
we don't know.
Well, somebody does. We had a player here, and they had to move, but they were here, and they were linguists. These were kids, high schoolers, who were planning on being linguists when they went into school. They were all about it. Anyways, back on track. Smurfs role-playing game. I haven't kicked in on it, even though I really want. This would be so child-friendly.
Okay.
Not using the dark history version.
Yeah.
But this is a game that I'm assuming is designed for the youngers. Because it wouldn't be Smurfs if it wasn't.
Right.
And Peyo's World of the Smurfs, the little blue creatures, 3 apples high, are a cultural phenomenon. Numerous comics. 3 apples high? That, you know what that means?
That they're taller than Hello Kitty?
No, they're exactly the same height as Hello Kitty.
No, Hello Kitty says that she's only 2.5 apples.
Oh.
And I'm not about to ask her what her weight is.
1 apple. So, moving on. The Smurfs are gone. I think it's great for educational stuff and things like that. Now, I know you're not a fan of podcasts. I forced you to listen to one.
Yes.
How did you like listening to a podcast? Period. Just the history, the experience of listening to a podcast as opposed to, say, an audiobook or watching a video.
When I think of podcasts, I'm not thinking of acted and scripted.
Oh, okay. Because podcasts can definitely be acted and scripted. In fact, I think most of them are.
Yeah, I know well enough to stay out of what is it? Who does Hello Kitty? Oh, jeez, I'm having a brain fart here. Who does Hello Kitty?
What company?
Yeah.
All right.
I know that they did Aggressive Red Skull.
Sanrio?
Sanrio. Right.
Sanrio.
Yeah, so that's the same people who that say Hello Kitty isn't a cat, but a girl in a cat outfit, and that's some revisionism. I'm not about to fight Sanrio. No.
Okay. I must clarify something for you. This is very, very,
Very
important. Sanrio, who said that Hello Kitty is not a kitty, felt the backlash and have reversed course. Hello Kitty is a kitty, according to Sanrio. They made that comment that she's not a kitty, and they got lambasted. Said, okay, she's a kitty.
All I know is I know well enough to stay out of that fight.
Oh, I was one of the ones in that fight. Like, come on. There are times when the artist is wrong.
I will agree. I will agree.
All right. So, welcome to Night Vale. This is the first thing we have that's on Backer Kit. Welcome to Night Vale role-playing game. And they wanted $25,000. So far, we've received $402,000. And I'm very glad that I backed it. And it's got a lot of things that it got in the extensions or the stretch goals. Unfortunately, all the stretch goals are digital or addition to the book. I don't get new extra dice or nothing like that.
Okay.
I did go in at a higher level than I probably should have, but both me and my wife are well, I didn't do it at the higher level. I did it for the basic pledge of 65. Even though I want a all-in one with all the extra toys and stuff.
You were asking me about podcasts.
Yes, podcast.
Yeah.
And let me explain why I was asking about podcast.
Sorry to derail you.
Because Welcome to the Night Vale role-playing game is based on a long-standing podcast.
Okay.
And it is it's a radio show from a town that you if you actually got into this town, you are very, very lost. You're going to experience supernatural and science fiction type horrors, like a sentient glowing cloud that drops meat.
But I'm already watching Agatha All Along.
Yeah, well, this came before that. All hail the glow cloud. It is very interesting. Don't trust the librarians. They're hungry. And nobody, including your dog, should go into the dog park.
Oh, jeez.
So it's kind of a horror, science fiction type thing, but it's fun and funny. And so I was asking you about your experience with podcasts. Now that you've listened to a scripted podcast, what is your opinion?
I would put it on now the weather. I would.
That comment tells me that Burbase knows this thing, because now the weather is a common phrase, and what it really means is they're going to go into some music, and the music will be stuff you've never heard before.
Okay.
I guarantee you this will be your first time hearing that song when it's and now the weather. Burbase, thank you for being a fan. Thank you.
I would probably put it in a, how should I put it? I like my audiobooks. I don't always get to listen to my audiobooks. But I want to be able to consume my audiobooks at my leisure without having to worry, oh, when's the next episode coming out?
Well, that can be for a start, but older podcasts like this one, you have many seasons to catch up on.
Right.
So you can read that all you want.
And for me, if the mayoral elections before I lost the string.
And Hearth Atmospheric is also, I think it's one of the bands that played for The Weather. So yeah, good stuff here. So I'm getting the lowest bid possible, trying not to make my wife hate me. But anybody who wants to help us raise that up, and get all the other things like the $100 one with all the cool stuff. But anyways, that one's just because of a fan. I am such a fan of this that I actually went to a live broadcast.
Okay.
They were doing a tour, and they came to Spokane. So we got to watch the Welcome to Night Vale live show.
Nice.
With audience interaction.
Now, mind you, I'm not a huge fan of horror, although I fall into one of those weird categories where I have a very strict definition of what horror is, and many people who would consider certain things horror, I don't consider horror.
Well, this would be on your probably not considered horror. It's eerie, it's atmospheric, and there are no jump scares. You're not going to come walking away from the radio thinking a monster's going to get you. Yeah, it's got a Gravity Falls, Twin Peaks style horror.
I didn't have a problem with Gravity Falls.
Did Twin Peaks scare you?
I've never watched Twin Peaks. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, you're awfully young.
The age for me doesn't matter anymore.
Well, it's available, the ability to find it.
Right.
Yeah, I can't wait till this is over and I can read the dark history of the Smurfs. We'll talk about that later. So, I have a friend. His name is Matt Kimmel.
And no, I actually dislike psychological horror. What I don't have a problem with is gore.
You don't like the horror that makes you think?
I don't like the horror that actually makes me afraid because I don't like being afraid.
But watching blood splatter doesn't bother you at all?
No, it doesn't.
So,
unless it specifically targets my very specific, what is it? Trigger? Which I'm not about to say online here.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Right.
But let me ask you this. Obviously, Chainsaw Massacre is not a problem for you.
Nah.
Hills Have Eyes, not a problem for you.
Haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Okay.
But I've watched like House of a Thousand Corpses. I've watched Evil Dead.
Evil Dead's practically a comedy.
Oh,
actually,
absolutely.
Evil Dead originally was meant to be a serious one.
I've watched the first one. I've watched the second one. I love the third one. I watched the remake, which was more, which was closer to the original first one. Didn't have a problem with any of them.
Yeah. The whole point, though, with the continuation of the Evil Dead series was that they wanted to. They said we're going to lean into the horror, the comedy of the horror.
Yeah.
Because anybody can do straight horror. All right, so let's say anything by H.P. Lovecraft.
I have to pace myself with H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay. Babadook.
No, I'm not watching that yet.
Yet? You mean you think you eventually will get around to watching Babadook?
Yes.
Okay, because that's definitely psychological horror.
I know it's on a very specific list that the list that Babadook is on a smaller, more condensed list, and it has a higher priority than that list that I have of just stuff that I haven't watched that I should have.
Right.
Yeah. So Babadook is on the short list.
Okay.
I haven't watched Carrie yet. I've been told that Carrie is good, which means it actually is scary, and I'm not a fan of being scared.
Well,
and it wasn't phobia; it was PTSD trigger.
Yeah. I'm not going to say that it's scary. It's good because it's Stephen King. I can watch it. Well, this is me, who just loves H.P. Lovecraft and Babadook and all those other. I love psychological horrors. I love horror that makes you think. I do enjoy a good splatterfest, but I would rather watch The Thing than Slaughterhouse.
Right. So I'll give you an example. I've watched The Grudge. I was
and Ringo.
No, not Ringo. They couldn't get me to watch Ringo.
Okay, I don't blame you. Because that's one that makes you go,
Yeah, I was not a fan of The Grudge. I did not like it. Hearth was there when I watched The Grudge. It took me a while to get over it.
have you watched The Exorcist?
No.
Okay. I will tell you this about The Exorcist. It was the first book to scare me. The first book to actually traumatize me, of course, was a little known horror story known as Watership Down.
Now, mind you, not all gore. I've seen Watership Down. God, that's a traumatizing story.
It is.
God.
All right, we haven't got much time, so I want to get the last Kickstarter out here. We're going to talk more about this Kickstarter next week with the person who's running the Kickstarter.
Yes.
Who is Matt Kimmel, and he is doing a Sundered World LARP, live action role playing, and he is going to get what's the word for it? He's getting a large property.
Yeah.
And he is going to make this work. Unfortunately, his Kickstarter, I don't know what he's doing to advertise, has a $7,000 goal, in which case he's had $600 so far for his LARP. Go to kickstarter.com/projects/9076371/sundered-world-LARP. Or just Google Sundered World LARP, and you can see it. This is a Eastern style LARP. It is not Eastern as in Eastern United States.
Okay.
East Coast, closer to Nero than Amtgard.
Okay.
There is sword fighting, and but you can't do thrust weapons because he uses foam weapons that aren't
Tipped.
They're not safety tipped, no.
Okay.
They're smaller than an eye socket, so he has slashing only rules. Yes, I am spelling out because we did not send it to you. We did not decide to include this Kickstarter
until very late.
like the literal last minute. But it is there. Google Sundered World LARP. Next week, we will talk to the person who's creating the LARP, and we will also relevate the Kickstarter. I have been guaranteed that whether the Kickstarter succeeds or fails, the LARP will go on.
Okay.
And he's only asking $7,000 when he is going to be spending a lot more because he's buying 40 acres. So help him a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got? We got 1 minute. So at this point, I think it's a good time for us to discuss the next topic, which is our next thing. We're going to talk about role-playing games, specifically CRPGs, computer role-playing games, and we will be discussing the ones that specifically we teach in our courses.
Right.
Then we will give you a list of a whole bunch of other ones. We'll talk a little bit about the definition of what is
a role-playing game.
A role-playing game and what makes a computer game a role-playing game, because
it gets messy.
Well, it does, but we'll have to agree that Tetris is not a role-playing game.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that Tetris is not a role-playing game.
And
I wouldn't consider
Missile Command isn't a role-playing game.
No, I wouldn't consider Snake a role-playing game.
No. But we will consider which ones are closer to the borderlines of a role-playing game. Like, do you consider the first Zelda to be a role-playing game? Do you consider any of the newer ones, role-playing games?
So, this is one of the reasons...
We're not going to talk about it right now.
Hold on. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to separate this into Western RPGs and JRPGs.
We will do that. Yeah. We will have a break in between to do the LARPs because the Kickstarter that I just told you about is going to be expiring in 10 days. So we need
we want to get them in. Yeah.
After that, we will do our traps and riddles and our unboxings. But right now, all I can say is thank you for your time.
And
See you in 15 minutes.
see you in 15 minutes. Term action RPG, yeah. Yeah, we will get. Welcome back to RPG Talk Show. My name is Daniel Ivy, and this is...
John Wilker, Vice President of RPG Research. Here we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we do research and education into role-playing games. We use the information that we do from our role-playing games and turn that into our educational programs, our therapeutic programs, our community programs, and things like that.
Our leisure and entertainment, and there is a difference.
Yep. But in our training, we discuss things such as what is a role-playing game. So before we get into the main topic of computer role-playing games in general, we talked last week about one Pacific one, Baldur's Gate 3, and we talked a little bit of Neverwinter Nights.
Yes.
We're going to talk a little bit more about it in just a moment. But first, we want to delve into what is
A role-playing game.
Now, you wanted to start with the
Wikipedia version.
Wikipedia, then I will drop into Hawk Robinson's definition per his role-playing game professional players and game masters training level 1 workbook.
Right. And I know that he had set that up because he was working off of he needed a specific definition for recreational therapy, which has some very strict definitions, especially for the modalities that we use. So
most of us in the upper echelons are rec therapists. He's not, but he's very useful.
I am, yes. They experiment on me. So, what is an RPG according to our Wikipedia? And I wanted to get this out because it's not that very long. According to Wikipedia, an RPG is a game where players assume the roles of characters in a fictional setting. And that's it.
Hey.
Now, I feel that is entirely too broad because if you can imagine that you are, you are taking control of a character, though the scopes of the bounds of human imagination and personification of inanimate objects is endless. At that point, yes, Tetris could be an RPG.
Well, if you're, I'm the character of the builder, or
do they just personify the blocks?
Yeah, I am Samus. Samus isn't a role-playing game.
I identify as Mario.
Right.
No, right. No.
Oh no, I identify as Donkey Kong, and Mario is the opponent. Wait a minute, why are you controlling the opponent then? If you're Mario, but either way, Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong game, is not a role-playing game.
No, it's not.
Doesn't matter that you are controlling a character in a fictional world.
Right.
Because it's too much to it. So, according to Hawk Robinson's definition of a tabletop role-playing game, Part 1, it is a seated, cooperative, interactive storytelling, recreational activity with structured rules in a shared imaginary setting.
And this is specifically for what is a TRPG.
Tabletop role-playing game.
Right.
Now,
we need this baseline to then see, okay, how does this translate to computer role-playing games?
yeah, we do understand that some people will play standing up.
Yes.
Usually the dungeon master. But typically speaking, people sit during a tabletop role-playing game.
Yes.
Participants, part 2. Participants include a facilitator and referee known as the game master. Now, the reason we call it game master is because every game system, role-playing game system, has different titles.
And I believe Wizard of the Coast or Hasbro owns the trademark for Dungeon Master.
More than likely.
Yeah.
Which would be very weird if they start suing certain clubs.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But
I don't think they're going to touch that one, especially considering that they had such a conniption fit over a specific book in 3rd edition.
yeah, but they also put out the Book of Vile Darkness that did cover that topic.
It lightly grazed it.
Yeah. BDSM, look it up yourself. Or ask your parents.
Actually, if you have to ask your parents, don't look it up.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Just stay ignorant until you're 18.
Yeah.
All right, so GM, in one or more role-playing game, players So in a traditional role-playing game tabletop version, you need 2 players. But there are solo role-playing games that we'll talk about in an entire different concept. But in your standard role-playing game, it is at least 2 players, preferably 3 players, 1 game master.
Yeah.
Up to 6 players and 1 game master.
We have heard of more. I know that Gary Gygax has run, like, for example, 20 players, but for most people, for most games, we try to limit it to 5 or 6 because then it starts getting a bit ridiculous and a bit difficult to really parse those groups.
I hope I have his business card here. I just thought of it.
Who's?
The eccentric DM.
Yeah?
I don't know if I have one of his business cards. It doesn't look like it.
The eccentric GM?
DM.
DM?
Yeah, because he only does Dungeons and Dragons. But he'll go to the conventions around here lately.
Yeah?
And he will play multi-table games. Well, actually, it's one big U-shaped table.
Yeah?
You 4 people play a game. You 4 people will be playing a game. You 4 people will be playing a game. And he'll bounce around as Dungeon Master to every game. So he's not doing 20 people one game where he's like, okay, you guys. He's going around to each section and playing.
And I see that you're really only talking about one person, which means, you know, based off of that compared to the rest of the population, that's still a very small minority of people who can do that.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like the guy who plays chess with 14 different opponents.
But how many of them does he beat? Because I can do that. I can play 20 different people. I'm going to lose every single one of those games.
He wins every single game.
Okay.
He can play. He can play against 20 people and win every game. These guys are called chess masters for a reason.
Yes.
All right. So moving on to the definition, I'm going to repeat this whole definition because I broke it up into so many parts.
Their settings, participants, action declaration, and rules and determination.
Right. So, but the participants include facilitator, referee, known as the game master, one or more role-playing game masters, RPGer, controlling one or more quantitatively and I think he's got this said twice.
No, qualitative and quantitative.
Thank you. Qualitative and quantitative, well-defined and evolving player character, generally distinctive, separate from the player. Now, the evolving is an important part of the definition in a role-playing game.
And I'm going to put a massive pin on that.
Now, we're going to talk more about that a little bit later. Action declaration. Each participant verbally declares imaginary actions taken by the PC or GM controlled entities which are not physically acted out by the player.
I feel like we could probably get rid of the verbally.
Well, no, see, now remember, this is the baseline.
Right.
The fact is that all pieces of the baseline, like I said, in part 1, a person could be standing. It's usually the GM that stands.
Yeah.
But people aren't necessarily always seated. Some people are lying down. But the standard or the average is going to be everybody seated. Participants, 1 player, 1 game master, multiple players. Sometimes it's a solo game. Sometimes we exceed our range of 3 to 6 players or have less than. Action declaration on average is verbally declared.
True.
In a shared language. But sometimes there's translators. Sometimes verbal means hand gestures or passing notes.
Yeah.
But the standard
Is verbal.
Part 4, results determination. Simple results are determined by agreed fiat, while more challenging results are determined by a combination of narrative and mathematical calculations that include static and random variables plus situational modifiers, enabling participants to vicariously experience through their PCs with abilities often beyond their players' own capabilities and imaginary consequences of those actions as defined by the game rules and the GM, with measurable PC and narrative progression usually tracked by paper and pencil.
Yes.
All right, let's translate that in short English. You declare an action.
Yep.
We determine if it succeeds. The GM tells you the results of the determination. Ways of determination sometimes are by fiat,
Yeah.
I walk across the room. Okay.
Not a problem.
On the other side of the room, you see this. I attempt to pull open the stuck door.
I'm gonna need you to roll a d20. Add your athletics modifier.
Right, and with a disadvantage because the door has is locked.
Although sometimes I will occasionally do is, and this is just for my, and I let my players know this, that sometimes there will be secret advantage and disadvantage, in which case I roll the second d20 without letting you know, because you may not know what is causing the disadvantage or advantage. But I tend to let people know after they've rolled.
Yeah, there's a lot of argument about what they should know and should not know. Perception checks. It breaks. What's the word?
Immersion.
Immersion. It breaks immersion if I tell you what is everybody's passive perception. Everybody suddenly starts looking around things.
I'm going to push back on that because you've seen how I play and how I run games. It doesn't break it if I've already conditioned you to be paranoid of what I'm asking, and it doesn't always.
Right.
But
that is an exception,
Yes.
Not the rule.
Yes.
The rule is that people who are asked to for a perception, what is your passive perception, then they will go and panic about it. But one of the other ones is some GMs
Yeah.
will do you want me to roll your perception checks?
Yeah.
That way, I will tell you if you failed or didn't fail, but you won't know whether you failed because it was a bad die roll
Or because
there was nothing to find.
Right.
A person who rolls a nat 1 may try again
Yeah.
and again
And again.
to find the hidden door where there isn't one.
See, I don't mind the players rolling it, because as Hearth has experienced from some of my games, they could be rolling a 20 and I'll just be describing it in such an obscure way that you still feel like there's something there despite not perceiving anything there.
What I answer to for a successful roll where there's nothing there to find, you're very confident that there's nothing here. Or but I'll also say that on really low rolls, you roll a 2 or a nat 1, you're very confident there's nothing here.
Oh yeah, well, I'm referencing an entire session where they started off and just oh yeah, Hearth is having a flashbacks of this session. Where they were at camp and they were supposed to be getting rest, and during watch it's like, give me a perception check. And some of them rolled really, really high, and I said, yeah, you don't really see anything, but out of the corner of your eyes you keep on seeing a shadow, and when you look, it's not there. The higher they rolled, the more they saw that shadow out of the corner of their eye. Was it a shadow? No. They were just tired. And now they're tired and paranoid.
I can't imagine how that would work. All right, let's look at other definitions of what role-playing games are.
And by the way, to call back to, I'm not a huge fan of horror. That's because when it comes to, sadism and masochism, I don't like being in pain. I don't mind inflicting it though.
So you don't want to play it as a player character, but you don't mind being the GM terrifying everybody.
No, I don't mind.
No.
I don't mind terrifying people. I just don't like being scared. I know that's entirely selfish of me. I don't care.
All right. So en.wikipedia.org, role-playing video games.
Yeah.
We have other definitions for it, and the main part of the computer game as a role-playing game is that your characters level up, they have experience, they gain things. It's and how you raise your togetherness for this.
Yeah.
The role-playing started in 1974, and for a role-playing computer game, it needs to meet most of those standards for the tabletop, but the dice rolls can be behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
The games can or cannot be mapped. They have exploration quests. You know, they have to have a story and setting.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost where I had the exact thing. CRPG, role-playing games, RPG, or computer role-playing games
Yeah.
is a video game genre where the player controls the action of a character or several party members immersed in some well-defined world, usually involving some form of character development by way of recording statistics. Many role-playing video games have origins in tabletop role-playing games and use the same terminology, settings, and game mechanics. Other major similarities with pen and paper games include developing storytelling and narrative elements, player characters' development complexity, as well as replay value, and immersion.
Yeah.
So there, under that category, we go to the Forbes definitions of it, and we get.
And I'm a bit amused that Forbes has a definition of what all role-playing games are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting to the point where Forbes, Time Magazine,
Time Magazine, I can understand. Wall Street and Forbes, I don't know.
No, we're getting more mainstream. We're not completely mainstream. The most popular genre for entertainment is still police procedurals and medical dramas. So they define a role-playing game as far as a computer role-playing game basically the same way.
Yeah.
And then they go into talk about types of RPG games.
Okay.
Now that's MMORPG.
Yeah,
massively multiplayer online role-playing game. All right. Jinx, show me a Coke. But the examples: World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Star Wars: Old Republic.
Yep.
Guild Wars 2, EVE Online, and Black Desert Online. EVE Online is a rough one, but that counts.
Okay, give me just a moment.
We're having an issue?
I'm going to possibly check something. Be right back.
Shall I keep talking?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. ARPG, action role-playing games. Now, action role-playing games happen to fit under what a role player would call, or a computer game player would call, a real-time strategy, RTS. And these are the games where your Twitch skills will come in handy to hit people on time. Diablo, Elder Ring, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Borderlands. Dark Souls, don't play it unless you enjoy a challenge and are willing to. You have to have grit to play Dark Souls. You have to be willing to lose before you learn to win. Then they say CRPG, computer or console role-playing games, while technically your ARPG, action role-playing games. We use ARPG and RPG research for audio role-playing game, which is a type of electronic role-playing game. Computer role-playing games, CRPGs, are also role-playing games. Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Planescape Torment, Disco Elysium, and Shadowrun Returns are all computer-based role-playing games. Then we have Japanese role-playing games, which we're not going to talk about much this week, but we will talk about it in 2 weeks. Western role-playing games, that's what we're going to talk about mostly here. Those are Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, Fallout games, Cyberpunk 2077, The Witcher series. And Western role-playing games offer a central storyline surrounded by optional content, dozens of side quests the players may or not choose to go. They're closer to open world video games with their style of engagement, as opposed to the Japanese ones, which tend to blend genres like fantasy and science fiction while focusing on party management and finding drama in the relationships that match the Save the World storylines. Chrono Trigger, Monster Hunter, and the Persona series. Oh, and of course, Final Fantasy. Um,
Um, we're having a bit of technical difficulties. Give us just a moment.
have I been heard so far?
Oh, no.
Okay. Am I off camera?
I can't tell.
Okay, I'll stand somewhere else to eat my chips. But the other watch.
Welcome back to the RPG Talk Show. We had a bit of technical difficulties. What were we talking about?
We were talking about computer
Yes.
role-playing games. Specifically, we were talking about the different types of computer role-playing games. The last thing we were mentioning was what Forbes defining for Japanese and Western role-playing games. I'm not sure if everybody heard that part before we ended. Should I repeat myself, or shall I assume you guys all heard that?
I think up until I think they heard.
You think they heard the Japanese role-playing game
Yes.
and the Western role-playing game? Okay.
Basically, the technical difficulties that we had is our tech lost access to
All right,
the
good.
main computer. It's not that we stopped streaming.
Yeah. So let's talk about the role-playing games that we do talk about in our classes.
Yes.
And then I've already listed a whole bunch of random ones that count as role-playing games. But he's got a huge list, and it'll probably take him a half an hour to get through all of them.
Yeah, I don't want to spitfire these, but I do want to point out that a few of these fall under two different categories. Thinking that I'm going to leave the JRPGs for another week, because that's an entirely different thing. Well, in terms of culture,
It's a different in culture, and it's a different in focus.
right?
While Westerns tend to deal with exploration and open world, the Japanese ones tend to focus more on relationships.
Right. So, in terms of the Western RPGs, I feel like we can break it down into: is it a multiplayer, which would include massively a multiplayer online games, and single player.
Right. Now, BG3, Baldur's Gate 3, is a single player game with up to 4 people playing at the same time.
Right.
Not up to 4 additional, 4 players, period.
Right.
Can all play on the same remote. They're working on cross-platform so that somebody who's playing on Xbox can play with somebody on PlayStation 4 or better, and on the computer.
And for my understanding, or at least the way I'm presenting it, it isn't. Is it capable of multiplayer? But basically, is multiplayer required? So, for example, when I talk about World of Warcraft, although you can solo play in World of Warcraft, you still need an internet connection, and you're still going to be at least around other players.
Yeah.
Right.
But technically, for your own personal play, you can be solo player.
Right.
But there are other games that are offline, that are set up as like multiplayer. There's one game whose name I always forget. I want to say Ragnarok, but it's not that. Kingdoms of Alamar.
Okay.
So Kingdoms of Alamar it feels like you're playing World of Warcraft,
Yeah.
except there are no other players.
Wow.
Was that a pun? World of Warcraft, wow.
No, if it was a pun, it was unintentional.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So
I have, in terms of just non-multiplayer games, I have, at least for me, Dragon Age.
right.
That entire series, I feel.
We'll talk. Okay. So let's hit Dragon Age for a second.
Yeah.
Dragon Age is one of the earlier good role-playing games. It was released in November 3rd, 2009. Yes, there were role-playing games prior to that.
There was.
King's Quest being one of